Welcome to another edition of Discover Tinley, where we highlight the people and organizations of Tinley Park that make our town a great place in which to live. And as we all know, Tinley Park is a pretty great place in which to live. My name is Ron Centanni. I'm here with the Community Resources Commission every month doing the show. We're all volunteers putting on the production, and we've got high school, college students, adults, all kinds of people helping us out doing the show every month. So we thank them very much for their service. Keep in mind, coming up in April 7th, Discover Tinley coming up. A big show every year that the Community Resources Commission puts on in town at the Convention Center. So hope to see you all out there. 10 a.m. opening, free parking, free admission. It's kind of a neat thing to see the village government, village offices, different organizations in town, businesses showing their wares. So come on out to Discover Tinley on April 7th. First guest is very interesting. I saw him at the Authors Expo at the library a couple months ago. Impressed me very much with his story. Very tremendous story about perseverance, setting goals, and overcoming obstacles. And I thought, I need to spend some time with him. So our first guest is Rob Besecker. Rob, thanks for coming to Discover Tinley.
Thanks for having me.
And I read the book, Everest Strong, about your story. Why'd you write this book? What prompted you to write a book about your situation?
You know, I've been through, as you say, situation. I've been through a lot of obstacles and challenges in life, especially with medical conditions. And a long time ago, one of my doctors recommended writing a book and reaching out to people with it. So finally I did. And so the whole goal of the book is to, reach out to people and inspire people. We all face obstacles and challenges in life, but there's no reason we can't continue to try to pursue our goals and dreams.
Right, and biggest thing is you don't let people tell you can't, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Let's go over some of the things that started you out on your trek to eventually to Everest Base Camp. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about some of the trials and tribulations. I was really impressed with what happened on the way to Everest to get you going there.
It's been an interesting scenario over time. So, one thing I talk about in the book is all the way back in high school, one of the biggest obstacles and challenges I faced early on, I was a big football player when I was younger. And when I was a senior in high school, just before my senior year, I was getting ready to get a football scholarship, do all these things. I actually broke my back, and I lost my ability to play football. And I think to a large extent that kind of prepared me for a lot of things that were going to happen to me in the future. So in 2000, I was sitting around the TV one night, and all of a sudden I started having really bad heart palpitations. And my whole family was with me on this particular evening, and my oldest sister, happens to be a nurse. And so, she checked my pulse, and it was a little crazy and out of whack. And I got taken to the hospital, and I immediately got diagnosed with something called atrial fibrillation. Mm-hmm. And not a big deal was made out of it. Everything was okay. But then moving forward in 2003, so 3 years later, and I had seen several cardiologists during this time only because I kept moving around. So I was in Chicago, and then I transitioned. I went to Purdue University for my master's degree, and then I moved out to Hartford, Connecticut. And then in 2003, we went to war. And I was working for a military contracting company, and I've always been a very patriotic person, and I wanted to support our cause. And I went to see another cardiologist, and she checked everything out. And I said, look, I want to come off a heart medication that I've been on. I've got a diagnosis of AFib, atrial fibrillation. Can I come off this medication and get in the military? And she took a very good approach. She said, you know what, Rob, let's run some tests. Let's make sure everything's okay. If it is, then you can get off the medication. You have my blessing. If not, let's take care of the problem. And the way I always talk about it is the next couple of weeks of going through tests, it was like going through finals in high school or college. Problem was, in this particular case, I flunked all my tests.
Oops.
So at the end of that, I had to have surgery to install a defibrillator pacemaker. And I was 27
yeah, I was going to ask you, how old were you? Okay.
Yeah, I was 27 at the time of the surgery. I was 25 when the issue first arose in 2000. So that's when I finally met a doctor that kind of said, you know what, you should play the lottery, because the things that are happening to you, strong, athletic guy, they don't normally happen to people. So maybe you should reach out to people about that. And so that's where the book idea first came about. And, so at the time, I'm 27, I'm single, and I've got these heart conditions. So I thought the perfect ending to my book would be falling in love.
Oh.
The perfect fairy tale ending, right?
Of course.
So the way I always talk about it now, well, that still hasn't happened yet. But one problem after another continued to arise over time. And this is something that I think everybody can relate to. And
Yeah, you started getting some more physical difficulties, right?
exactly, yeah. A couple of years later, I got diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, and I saw my father's deterioration.
Okay.
So it was a decade of grief, as I call it. So in 2003, I had my cardiac surgery. In 2004, my brother passed away. I had another follow-up surgery in 2005. My father was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. In 2006, I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, and my mom had a severe stroke. So it was just, it
Wow.
continued on, one problem after another.
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized that you don't need a fairy tale ending. I don't need to get married and fall in love. That's not the end of the story. The story is that every time I get knocked down, like we all get knocked down,
Right.
I got back up.
Yeah, what told you to get back up again? Now, some people go through all that, and boy, I got muscular dystrophy. I'm just going to sit around and I can't do anything. What triggered you to say, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm going to keep going?
It is really easy to get depressed, and don't get me wrong, I had my bouts as well. But the interesting realization is you have two choices. When you get knocked down, you can stay there, or you can get back up. And those are literally the only two options you got. Now, when you get up, you've got more options. So you can get up and you can complain about it, or you can get up and you can make the best of potentially a less than ideal circumstance. And so in my life, I saw my father's deterioration, and I saw how he let it kind of take over his life. And he didn't want to go out, and he didn't want to do things anymore. He didn't want to go to ball games. It was hard, and I get that. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to take the opportunity to do all the things I could while I still could.
And did you have some goals and dreams and aspirations of what you wanted to do eventually too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So initially, after my father's diagnosis with muscular dystrophy and then my diagnosis, my diagnosis happened in 2006. I moved back to Chicago to be with my family in 2007. And then in 2008, one of my goals was I wanted to go for a walk and a jog on the Great Wall of China.
Oh.
So I did.
Okay.
And then in 2010, I was able to go to my seventh and final continent of Antarctica. And while I was in Antarctica, I met a gentleman by the name of Peter Hillary. And Peter Hillary...
Name sounds familiar.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So he's the eldest son of Sir Edmund Hillary, the first to ever summit Mount Everest. And so like a lot of people, I didn't know a whole lot about Mount Everest. I knew it was the tallest mountain in the world, but geographically, I didn't know exactly where it was, didn't know all the specifics. And so when I met him and I learned about some of his experiences, he was just an amazing man to talk to, just very down to earth. And I learned a lot about Everest. And it just so happens, so that was in 2010, shortly after I got back from Antarctica, I continued to have heart problems. And so I had what's called an ablation. I had a procedure to try to stop my heart from going into these irregular rhythms all the time.
Now, with these heart problems, did it interfere with your Antarctica trip or some of these other trips too?
They can. So, when you have the heart problems, it can create additional problems. So it can create, the possibility of having a stroke. It can create the possibility of having a heart attack. I mean, there's a lot of complications that can come of it. So you need to take care of it. So when I got back from Antarctica, I had an ablation. And again, the nature of my entire situation is it's very unique. And a lot of things happen that don't ordinarily happen. So I went through the ablation, and to a large extent that fixed the atrial fibrillation problem. But I started going into something called atrial tachycardia. So atrial fibrillation is an abnormal rhythm. It just beats out of whack a little bit. When you go into atrial tachycardia, and it's an extremely fast rhythm. So my heart rate 2 days after surgery went up to like 250 beats a minute.
Oops.
And as a result of having my defibrillator, my device fired. Again, to make the situation a little bit more unique, my device was misfiring because the lead, the wire that attaches the device to your heart, broke.
Oh my.
So I received a total of 18 shocks over the course of an hour, and it was the most torturous experience I've ever endured.
Wow.
And so over the course of the year, I ended up going through another 5 surgeries and procedures. I ended up calling 911 5 different times.
Oh my.
I had 7 ER visits. It was just a horrendous year. And a lot of people doubted my survival, questioned my survival, and completely doubted my recovery. Nobody expected me to get back to full strength.
Wow. And let's talk about, you're getting short of time, let's talk about your quest to Everest Base Camp then. How did you get to that, and talk a little bit about what you went through to achieve that?
Absolutely. So just out of coincidence, after all that happened in 2011, in 2012, my sister and I were invited to do a hiking expedition at Everest Base Camp. And so after everything that happened, I went to my doctors and I said, what do you think? And they said, what, are you kidding me? Are you nuts? And so they told me no. And I don't like to be told no. I want to understand why. And I don't want to put myself in harm's way. I don't want to do anything silly or stupid. But one of the things that I was told all along is, you've been through a severe circumstance, but it's just a blip on the radar. You're over it. You should be able to continue to live a normal, healthy life. Well, to me, a normal, healthy life means if I get invited to base camp, I'm going to base camp.
Okay.
So I did everything within my power over the course of the next 2 to 3 years to train, to do altitude training, to do TRX, to hire a personal trainer, and prepare my body for the possibility of going to Mount Everest. So by the time that 3 years was up and I hit my 40th birthday in 2015, I went to my doctors and I said, look, I've done everything you've asked me to do. Can I go? And they said, you know what, Rob, we really don't want you to go, but you have done everything we've asked. Our wishes are with you. Have a great time. And so that brought me to Everest.
Okay. Yeah, talk about briefly what was that trek like, and it was with your sister too. What was that trek like, and how long did it take you to get up there?
The trip to Everest, in total, it was about 2.5 weeks. And you reach every different emotion possible. The uppest of ups and the lowest of lows. So it was difficult, but it was absolutely amazing and wonderful. I talk about 2011 and my device shocking me 18 times in an hour. I talk about that as being the worst thing I've ever been through in my life, or the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. I talk about Everest as the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life on purpose. So okay. that's how I caveat. But there was a lot of interesting things. It was amazing to be able to overcome it, and I wanted to share it with everybody that, hey, I got knocked down, but I'm pursuing my goals and dreams. And unfortunately, halfway through the trip, my sister suffered altitude sickness. All these preparations to go to Everest, everybody was worried about me and how I would do. And then here my sister gets sick. So that was a very difficult point. And the trek was hard.
Yeah.
All my training was very worthwhile, and it was still very difficult. But by the same token, the jubilation when I finally got there, it was amazing. And one of the things, one of the most amazing parts about it, it's not just the journey, but it's the people you meet on your journey. Oh, yeah. So I'm not this amazing person all by myself that did all these wonderful things. It's the inspiration I get from everybody else, whether it be Peter Hillary or whether it be people I meet along the way in the trek. And so when I got to Everest Base Camp, I was worried that my sister was no longer with me. Yeah. And all I wanted when I got to base camp was to hug somebody who knew everything I'd been through. Okay. And so with my sister not being there, I was worried about being disappointed, but I had met the Chilean hiking team, right. Or actually mountain expedition team, who was going to be summiting Everest and then summiting Lhotse. And so they learned about my story over a couple weeks.
Well, you made it there. One last question, we're running short of time.
Sure.
What does it mean to be Everest Strong?
It means that don't ever give up on your goals and dreams.
Wow. Okay. Tremendous experience. I would suggest you read the book. That's the short time we had here didn't do it justice, but a tremendous inspirational experience of reaching that goal. and in spite of all the obstacles, I can't believe you did that. So
Thank you. And I love going out to schools and doing public speaking and reaching anybody I can.
wow. Well, congratulations. Keep up the good work, and good luck to you in the future. Hope you stay strong.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Rob Besecker. Well, our first guest was very inspirational on what he accomplished and how much he did. And our second guest is also inspirational. And every once in a while, I like to have some young people in town talk on our show to show what kind of inspirational young people we do have in Tinley Park. And I was at the Veterans Luncheon at Andrew High School back in November, and I met a young man who became an Eagle Scout. And I like to have these Eagle Scouts once in a while because that's a tremendous accomplishment. So our first guest is a Eagle Scout from Andrew High School, Kyle Kras. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Okay. Eagle Scout. What does it mean to be an Eagle Scout?
Well, I mean, being an Eagle Scout's kind of being part of like a brotherhood, because knowing that you're not the only one that's actually achieved this rank, and like not many people actually become Eagles, it means a lot, because you're knowing that you're part of something bigger than yourself, because it's not, oh yeah, I did this. It's being part of what you've actually done, and like what you've done for scouting, what you've done for other people. Because what being an Eagle means is that it's not what you've personally done. It's not your actual personal accomplishments. It's what you've done for your community, what you've done for your peers, what you've done for your nation, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So it's not really personal. I don't really see it as a personal achievement, but like...
Well, you had to do it. You had to do it, so you achieved it personally. So
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty big achievement, but I think of it more as like a community achievement in a way.
What does it take to become an Eagle Scout? What do you have to go through?
It's a lot of hard nights. It's a lot of hard work, dedication. It's long nights, a bunch of campouts. It's more than what you would expect, like, to be an Eagle Scout, because most people think of like, oh, Eagle Scout, and they don't really think of like what you've actually done to become an Eagle Scout. Because I've personally gone on tons of different campouts, tons of different places. I've gone places like Iowa, I've gone like down south, Illinois, Wisconsin, all over the place, Michigan, just to do campouts, learn different learn different things, do a bunch of different merit badges. Learn.
Yeah, let's talk about the merit badge. What are some merit badges that you have to do to become an Eagle Scout?
Most of them are all life-saving, and a bunch of different, pretty much citizenship, a bunch of different merit badges like that. One of the requirements is like health, life-saving, where you actually have to dive in, like jump in water, save people that are technically drowning.
Oh my.
Yeah, and you have to learn how to like bandage wounds, help people that if they're having a heart attack, you know what to do. Pretty much you need like snake bites, tick bites, a bunch of other stuff. What else? Citizenship in the nation. Most scouts aren't very fond of those. They're pretty boring. But
really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But it's learning about how to be a better citizen in your not only in your community, but also in your state and also your nation, and like how you can give back to your community, how you can give back to others in your community and nation, and how you can be a better citizen, pretty much.
Wow. So how many merit badges have you got now?
I've gotten around.
You got a ton there.
Like 40, something like that, yeah.
40 something. How long have you been in scouting? How long have you been?
I've been in scouting since around, I think it was first grade.
Oh my.
First grade, kindergarten, and I'm sophomore in high school now, so I've been in for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about Boy Scouts is where you start doing all this stuff. How long you been in Boy Scouts?
Boy Scout starts in like 6th grade, 5th grade, something like that.
Okay.
And so probably around 4 years, 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any merit badges mean more to you than others? Anything that really says, I got a kick out of doing that one, or I really enjoyed that one?
Well, I remember my first summer camp that I ever went to, it was at Camp Ingersoll in Michigan, and I signed up for a bunch of different merit badges, but one merit badge I didn't sign up for was the chess merit badge. And since I love chess, and my scoutmaster told the other counselors that, oh, this kid's really good at chess. I'm like, okay, so I went to the class, and I didn't even sign up for it, and I ended up earning the badge in 10 minutes.
What'd you have to do?
Pretty much, most of the accomplishments I've already done, like the requirements and stuff, so pretty much I just played the counselor, beat him, and he said,
Oh.
well, you technically know what you're doing, so he pretty much gave me the merit badge.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So pretty much what kids were doing in a week, I did in 10 minutes.
Okay. Any other ones we have a meaning to, a good deep meaning to?
Most of probably the citizenship ones, even though most, like I said,
Now, what'd you have
most,
to do to get that one?
pretty much you have to you have to do a bunch of stuff at home. I think it was citizenship in the community. It was probably the one that meant the most to me, probably because you do stuff not only at home, but like helping out your community around you.
Okay.
So like we had, part of it is you have to do a project at home, and I remember when we had to organize our basement. That was that was a fun time.
Are you available to organize my my place?
Sure.
Okay.
But that you have to do that, and that was a fun time. We had a fun time reorganizing all of that. We mixed our basement up a lot. We reorganized everything. You also have to do certain projects in the community as well.
And don't you have to do one big main project to be an Eagle Scout?
Yeah,
And
you have to do like
what was your big project to be an Eagle Scout?
Pretty much for the Andrew Chess Club at Andrew High School. They made it to nationals that year or last year. So pretty much you need to have pretty much like sportsmanship medallions, pretty much to like give out at each round. So I made around 30, 35 of these little medallions that were like Andrew medallions, you know, so that the players could hand out to their opponents after every match. And you also need a mascot, like the team mascot, to like put on the table. And their old one was like paper mache. It was all ripped. It had rips all over the place. So I decided to make them a new one, completely carved out of wood, polished and everything. So yeah.
Wow. What was the mascot? What was it?
It was pretty much just a big horse. It was a big horse. It was covered in black. It had a gold lightning bolt going through it because we're the Thunderbolts.
You're the Thunderbolts.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And pretty much they had it. They went to state, and I think they went 5 rounds, won 5 rounds and lost, or out of 7. So.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I kind of related. I was when I worked at Tinley Park High School, I was the chess coach over there.
Oh, really?
So we came in 3rd in state one year. So that was a good accomplishment for our team there.
Yeah.
So good luck to you with the chess thing. That's gonna. Are you on the chess team at all? Or?
Yeah, I'm on it this year. We're actually leaving for state tomorrow, actually.
Oh,
so
my.
We've been seeded 12th out of 128 teams. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We're
Wow.
hoping to do pretty well because we're losing almost half our team this year, so we're losing 5 of our 8 players.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Where's your standing on the team now? What number are you?
I usually play board 4 out
Okay.
of like the 8 boards, but
Okay.
I might be moved up to board 3. I'm still waiting to see what our coach says. But
You've been winning a few?
Yeah,
Oh yeah?
just a couple.
Oh my goodness. All right, describe some of the other things on your uniform here. Now, this is the Eagle badge right there, right?
yeah, this
That's
was
the
awarded at the Eagle ceremony. Yeah.
And what's that ceremony like? What happens at the Eagle ceremony?
Well, usually it's you pretty much bring in the Order of the Arrow, like which is like the honor society. I guess you would say of Eagle Scouts, or not Eagle Scouts, of like Boy Scouting in general. But they come in, they bring in their ceremonial team, and they have like this big Eagle ceremony, and they come in dressed in the full Indian outfits and stuff, and they pretty much read off all the accomplishments and stuff that you've done. You pretty much have like important people in your life that you read about. You give them mentor pins. You give your mom a pin because she's pretty much probably one of the biggest influences.
I was going to ask you, who were some of your big influences?
Probably my mom was probably the biggest, because I remember at one point I did want to quit because yeah, there was someone in my troop that I really didn't get along with, but I remember her pushing me to keep going, to keep at it. So eventually I did, and we worked it all out. And she just kept pushing me. I remember her always complaining, like I would come home after a camp out, everything's all over the place, it's all dirty, she'd have to wash it all. So she'd always give me complaints about that, but she was probably the biggest.
Okay.
Who else? Probably, I guess my dad would also be another one. He also pushed me as well throughout it. And probably my scoutmaster, Mr. Conley. He really wanted to work with me.
Okay.
I really bonded with him throughout the whole entire time I was with him, and he just stepped down this year as the Scoutmaster this year, so
Okay.
I was kind of sad to see that. But he really pushed me, and I could tell he liked me because he helped me resolve any problems that I had with anyone else. He was always the first one to help me if I ever needed help with something.
Wow.
And he was always there for me if I needed something. So
Now, what's your troop number, and where do you meet at?
I'm part of Troop 380, and we meet at CJB, Cardinal Joseph Bernardine. So
Okay. Now, why should kids think about going scouting? What would you recommend? Should they even think about doing that?
I mean, personally, I think they should do it because, I mean, most people, when they think of Boy Scouts, they're like, oh, Boy Scouts, and they usually, like, laugh. But what they don't realize is that Boy Scouts teaches you so much about life and, like, life-saving skills and different skills that you wouldn't learn if you didn't take it. Because I remember there's one instance, I think it was in school or something, and the kid had a really bad cut, and the teacher, no one saw it except me. So, you know, I took off my jacket and I like wrapped it and put pressure on it because I knew what to do. And no one else knew what to do. So, like when situations like that come up, Eagle Scouts and Boy Scouts in general, they know what to do. They've been tested in the situation before. Okay. So they have a better understanding of what's going to happen.
All right. Now, what's your plans for the future?
Me personally, I want to go to West Point, which is a big shot. So
yeah,
that's where I really want to go to college,
right.
And I want to go into the Army. I want to either probably be a medic or something like that in the Army. So
now, what prompted you to look at West Point and be in the Army?
There's a lot of my family members that are in the Army, and I think there's one member that's currently in the Army. She's been a big role model for me as well. She's a major in the Army, and my mom was also in the Army as well. So just like the fact that I want to give something back to my nation, pretty much, like, because I'm already an Eagle. I'm already tried to giving back so much to my community, to everyone around me. So
well, wish you all the best of luck. Kyle Kras, Eagle Scout from Tinley Park. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Discover Tinley. We'll see you next month.